um, well, my father fell ill and we were seeking help, spiritual help. And then our next door neighbors invited us to the church, and we went to the church. First day of me being at church, then I got my first prophecy, right? And this prophecy from him, he looked at me and he said that I must not worry and that I am supposed to get a lot of money from my dad. And I did not understand how a lot of money from my dad when my dad didn't have much. Like we didn't have much at home. So I did not understand the prophecy at all. And then he kept on praying for my father, kept on praying for my father, but yes, my father was also in the church. And then he kept on praying for my father, but my father never got well. In fact, it got worse. And then my father passed on, and that's when I understood the prophecy now, because my father passed on now. Kaunani talks about money now because I get it now. He's passed on. So now I did not understand. Did he see my father's death coming? Did he see it? Then why was he talking about money, my dad? It didn't make sense. Yes. So now we started talking about money. Now I understood where he was coming from about money and my father. Even with the money I received from my father, I like kept in contact with him, asking him because now he gave me a prophecy. He said that I'm supposed to do something with the father, with the money that my father left me. So he kept on saying that I'm supposed to do something with it. Yes. So I kept on running back to him because now I trust him. I get he's a true man of God, like he says. Now I want to seek guidance from him on how should I spend this money? What did God say in that revelation? So I kept on going back to him in terms of the money, and then he would just tell me, no, wait till next year. So I waited till next year, didn't do anything with the money. But he never really solidly knew what I should do with the money. So then that, to be honest, I don't even know what I did with that money. Ilaya, like, Nolomo Ferrefer. Now, if I'm under his guidance, like, why couldn't he help me? You know? So, okay, that passed. That was a Chalete Kadifeta. And then now he started, like, confiding in me about what was happening in his marriage. Now he started talking to me about how his wife is. He would just talk a lot of bad things about her, like complaining about her behavior and just a lot of things that he was unhappy about within their marriage. So he would now confide in me with that. So in return, I would try my level best to speak from a point of um like maybe advising him like, okay, just be patient, she'll come back. So in this time, the wife had left him and they were in the process of divorce. Then this one day I just received a call and he said to me, do you know that I am officially divorced? So in this call, he wanted to make it clear that he is divorced to me. Like he got the highlight of that phone call was I am officially divorced. So I think there was a aim with that call so that I could let my guard down because he could see that my guard was very high because I looked at him as a man who was married and a pastor. That's how I treated him and that's how I looked at him. So now, with this phone call coming in and him telling me that he is officially divorced, I must say this is where my mistake came in. I let my guard down because he said to me that he is divorced. So after he told me that he was divorced, it was a lot of phone calls back to back after that. And then I went to church with my first then boyfriend, and immediately after church we broke up. The second one came into my life. I got another boyfriend and I took him to church as well. But as soon as after that, we started having problems. Like, he lived in Johannesburg and I went to him in Joburg, and we had this huge fight, me and my boyfriend, and we broke up. So it felt like when I was in constant communication with the prophet, then all of my relationship kind of failed. It's like my first boyfriend, we failed. Now the second one broke up as well. So in the process of the breakup, I was still in contact with the prophet because I was confiding in him about my relationship issues. So I kept on telling him, no, he did 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then he would advise me to do this. So okay, that was over, and then he started contacting me a lot now. After the second one has been removed, now he was consistent. He was very persistent with his phone calls with me, and then until he called me, because now I couldn't get over um my previous boyfriend. Now it was very hard for me to get over him because I loved him so much. And he called me. He said I should come to the office. So this is the church's office. He said the church has an office. So now I must go to the office so that we talk about the matter. The matter was um my relationships with my relationship with my previous boyfriend. That was the matter. We were supposed to speak about that. And now later on, he says to me that I can come. He will request a meter cab for me. So I'm like, no, it's okay. My sister will drive me.
So where is the office?
He gave me his home address, but he covered it up with it's an office, it's a church office. But then later, when I'm on the way, he changes his statement. He's like, no, we are busy in the process of moving. So now the church stuff is here at my house, so you can come. He offered to um book a meter cab for me. And then I said, no, my sister will drop me off there. Then he didn't say anything. Then I was like, okay, let me just go with my family because we all want to speak to him because since he's our pastor. So I took the rest of my family and then we drove to his house. Now it's not the office anymore, it's his house. But you could clearly see in the message he wanted me to come alone. Even my mother sensed that he wanted me to come alone. Now, okay, I went with my family. When we got there, we spoke with him. We spoke. We were talking about spiritual issues and all the problems that each individual were dealing with. So now, even when we got to his house, we were asking him, where is the wife and the child? Because I guess she was pregnant at that time. Then he said, no, I believe that they're fine wherever they are. So it didn't make sense that you're living alone. Where is the wife? Where is the child? Fine. Then after that, went home. He kept on speaking to me, talking to me, and we spoke. Now his tone dropped from being a pastor to now being a regular guy that you would meet anyway. Yes. He was talking to me how like a normal guy would talk to me. Not like a pastor tone, but like a normal guy that would approach me and that seems like he's interested in me. dropped from a prostitute to that. So now with me, I didn't have I didn't have discernment at that point. My discernment was not on point. So I took him as a normal guy that was speaking to him. And this is where I this is where I say I was wrong. This is where I say I went wrong. I took his the way I saw him as a pastor, I took it all off and I saw him as a normal person, as a normal guy. And I shouldn't have, because if you're a true man of God, you are like that with the church and in your private space. It's not the jacket that you put on and take off after Sundays. It stays with you. It's who you are. It's truthful to you. You don't just put it on a Sunday and you go to church and then after church, you're someone completely different. So now I treated him as, oh man, he's a normal guy, he's not a pastor. And then we continued, and then he invited me again, and this was at night to his place. So now I, I took him as a normal guy, then I went to his place, and he, I remember that night very clearly. And then I thought we were just going to sit and talk. But then he had other plans, because I remember we were sitting and then he started touching me, he started caressing me. And I said to him, no, I'm waiting till marriage. And because he was a pastor and I saw him as a pastor, I thought that he would understand this. But he did not. He continued touching me, he continued caressing me, and until it's like he was, you know, when you say no and a guy says, and a guy persists until you say yes, because he's not just taking your no, he's still carrying on even though you said no. So he carried on until I gave in. That's when I would say I was seduced. I would say I was seduced by him, because I did say no, and then he just kept on going. And then I fell for it. And then he took me to his prayer room, but and then I later understood, like, I later understood that there was his prayer room that he took me to, and he slept with me there. And then when I woke up in the morning, all I wanted to do was go home. He never really wanted me to leave. He always wanted me to be there in his house. He never wanted to be alone. I don't even understand why doesn't he want to be alone, but he always wants to have someone there present in his home. But I just wanted to go home. Then I went home. So the first night that he slept with me, he told me that he did a medical procedure called a vasectomy, meaning that he cannot have kids. Yes. So he told me that he underwent a medical procedure, so I thought that I was safe. And I asked him, where's the protection? Why aren't you using protection? And then he just told me, no, we are safe. Go to him every time he would call me. But then I ended up going. That's the part that till this day I do not understand. That's why I feel like I was spiritually manipulated into everything that he said I would do. So he kept on calling me to his house and he kept on sleeping with me on and on and on and on and on. And he slept with me, slept with me, slept with me. And then I fell pregnant. And this was the last thing on my mind because I felt very ill. And then I fainted at work. I didn't know what was the cause. And then, yeah, I fainted. Then somebody advised me to go take a pregnancy test. Then I went and bought a pregnancy test, and I found out that I was pregnant. Then he was the first person I called. Then I told him this. And then he rejected. He's like, no, I did a vasectomy. You cannot be pregnant, blah, 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 blah. And then I said, if you underwent a medical, this, and if you underwent this medical procedure, let's go to that doctor. Let that doctor confirm to my face that you went under this procedure. And then he got angry with me, and yeah, he just got angry with me and just never did what I asked him to do. I asked him to prove to me that he underwent a medical procedure. He never proved it to me. So okay, cool, fine. And then I I I told God that, God, I believe your word, and your word says I should never um get rid of a child. So this child I will keep. This child will always remind you, will always remind me of God's word, number one, and that it's truthful. And I solely relied on God throughout that pregnancy, because from the get-go, he just was not interested, so I relied on God. And then, okay, fine, I tried, I tried getting in touch with him. I tried involving him in every step of the pregnancy, but he was just not interested. He really was not. And then there was a time where I called him and I told him my appointments cost this much, and he never sent money for me to go to appointments to go see the doctor. So I had to pay for my medical bills. It's like he was forcing me to love him, to be honest, because there was a time where I told him, he asked me if I loved him. And I said, I, I don't love you, I like you. And he got mad at me. He got mad. That's during the pregnancy. And he was so upset with me that I did not love him. And then he said to me that I should abort. And I said, no. I had dreams of him trying to kill the child. Like, I would dream of him doing things to my stomach. Like, this man would sleep with me on a Saturday, and Sunday he's in church preaching, and I'm sitting there looking at him. And in the church I was disgusted because everything he preached was not what he was practicing privately. So there was even a time where he was preaching and I stood up and I left, because everything in me was like, how could you stand here and preach all of this, but behind closed doors you're doing all of this? So I stood up and we left, because it just did not make sense. Even with the pregnancy, he didn't even send his family to come and acknowledge what he did. He never told his family. Nothing from his family side, nothing from him, nothing. He hasn't spoken to my mother. He hasn't spoken to all the elders in my family about anything in regards to the child. So then, when I was 6 months pregnant, then he disappeared immediately, blocked me everywhere, blocked all my family everywhere, blocked everyone, and he pretended as if he was not in Bloom anymore. So I stopped completely speaking to him when I was 6 months pregnant. Then I only started speaking to him again when the child was born, thinking that things would be different, but it was still the same. Child support was very difficult. Like, I have to fight with him before he takes out money for the child. Like, it's a lot. Even till this day, he hasn't come see my family. He hasn't come to fix things with the family. He hasn't informed his own mother or her own family. He has done nothing. But instead, he's just continuing with this life that he's living. Yeah.